Welcome back to the Man Cave Podcast. There is no Dan, as I said in the last segment, but you got me. You got D. So, I'm like a diamond in the rough. Love me, hate me, whatever. It don't matter. I am D. But Dan's out again, as I said last time. He's sick, so, reach out, show some love to him. But I'm going to go over the Week 15 NFL games that I'm going to run through. I'm going to run through the Ravens-Jags, the Browns and Giants, the Steelers and Bengals game. I'm going to go over the Philly-Arizona game and the Chiefs and Saints. I do want to congratulate the Bills because they clinched the AFC North, or the AFC East, my bad. And it's the first time that they've done it since 1995, if I'm not mistaken. It was before Josh Allen was even born. They keep emphasizing that for some reason. And even, the Dolphins completely shut the door and eliminated the Patriots the first time in forever. And, the Dolphins have the potential to make it to the playoffs first time in a few years. If they end up losing, this team that I'm about to go over, the Ravens, end up getting their spot in the playoffs. We'll see about that. But the Ravens ended up playing the Jags. They beat them 40-14. I'm not going to talk too much about this because, it is against the Jags, and they're in the running for the Trevor Lawrence sweepstake. They could end up getting him or Justin Fields. We'll see how that goes because it's between them and the Jets. The Jets ended up actually winning a game on Sunday, which is surprising. They've been nipping at the heels of the teams that they're playing, taking leads and stuff. They almost beat the Raiders a couple weeks ago. But, me being a Ravens fan, as you guys know, I'm just happy that it's back-to-back games, that they've been putting up 40 points. They're on a 3-game winning streak, and we are, as I said before, nipping at the heels of the Dolphins and trying to get that spot in the playoffs. The defense was looking solid on Sunday, even with missing Campbell, Peters, and Jimmy Smith. It's a major hole that my team has with the cornerback room, because once Peters and Jimmy Smith are missing, all we have is Marlon Humphreys and nobody else, really. But J.K. Dobbins, again, had a solid game. It's 4 games straight with a touchdown. He had 64 yards on the ground. He caught 1 pass for 17 yards. And I'm just happy that Dez Bryant actually didn't retire, because he is a big body receiver that my team is definitely needing. Somebody who can go up to try to get those 50-50 balls. And he caught his first touchdown in 3 years. And he threw up the X. So, I'm excited to see that. The Jags, they have potential. They have some solid pieces there. They got Miles Jack. They got that stud of a rookie undrafted receiver in Robinson. And they got a couple pretty decent receivers. They were out there making some plays here and there. And even that running back, Robinson, he caught that pass just right over his shoulder that Gardner Minshew threw him. They got some potential. They just really need a better quarterback, and they need a couple little pieces here and there. Their defense it's okay, but it's not that great. We all know that Gardner Minshew's out there playing more or less hero ball and just trying to do what he can. And he's going to turn the ball over and he's going to fumble. But, when somebody comes up and they knock the ball out of their hand, the difference between the Ravens and the Jags is that when Lamar puts the ball on the ground, when Smoot comes over and forces the fumble, we have the big man Phil out there running, just running like a bowling ball, protecting the ball out there. And when Gardner Minshew ends up turning the ball over, Derek Wolf's there to pick up the ball. So there's a difference there. But, I'm just glad that after the whole Poopgate thing happens and Lamar ends up coming out and dropping that 40-yard dime to Marquise Brown. I'm not calling him Hollywood. But after he ends up dropping his load in the bathroom, we're just basically leaving all that shit in the past. So I'm okay with that. I mean, we still are in the hunt. The Browns need to drop a game, or Miami needs to drop a game. Steelers aren't really helping with dropping 3 in a row. So, I mean, we'll see how that ends up going. But I'm going to move on over here to the Browns and Giants game. I mean, again, there's really not much to really talk about here. I mean, they ended up more or less, blowing out the Giants 20-6. And, they're out there still doing their thing, kicking ass and taking names. So, I mean, you can definitely tell that these aren't the Browns of the old days. They aren't somebody that just has, like, good on one side of the ball and not good on the other side. Baker Mayfield's out there, looking really good in the last couple weeks. You can definitely tell with Kevin Stefanski coming that, Baker's game's been elevated. That running attack is basically their go-to thing that they do. I mean, why not when you have Hunt and Chubb? They're out there doing their thing. I mean, they didn't really have to do much of that this game because Chubb was leading the way with 50 yards and a touchdown. And it was that solid defense and that passing game that really did the heavy lifting here. The defense allowed 3 points in each half. So, I mean, that's why they only put up 6. The Giants were out there looking stupid, trying to run fake field goals for some reason when they're in the red zone. And they ended up turning the ball over in the red zone. So why do that? Why even do that? I mean, the Browns only put up 20 points. If you would have scored a touchdown, it could have at least been somewhat of a fight. I mean, you really didn't do much, but, it is what it is. Jabril Peppers, the Giants ended up trading for him, and they're actually using him a little bit better than the Browns did. So I'm glad to see that because he's a piece that you can put all over the field. Put him at linebacker, put him at cornerback, put him at safety, whatever, he's going to make plays. And that's something that the Giants really need, and that's something that they've ended up doing. I'm glad to see that. I mean, it's kind of sad that, Danny Dimes, Daniel Jones isn't out there doing his thing because Baker made some comments about him when the Giants drafted him that I think could have made this somewhat of a more of a fight, more of a better game to watch, especially with it being the Sunday night game and having no Saquon Barkley out there. You could definitely tell that they were missing them. They didn't really have too much of a running game. They weren't really able to do too much on the offensive side of the ball. And, I mean, you can definitely tell that with the addition of Landry, Hooper in the receiving, as being a receiver for the Browns, that Landry and Hooper really are making some big moves to turn that offense into something more. With the emergence of people like People Jones, even though I don't like the school that he came from, and Higgins in the passing game, it's something that the Browns have been lacking on the offensive side of the ball. I'm happy to see that. I'm glad to see that they're at least making the AFC North probably one of the best conferences out there. They were talking about that on Sunday. I mean, it's pretty good. And then with, as I said, Chubb and Hunt, leading the way on the ground game. I mean, it's something that, the Browns have been lacking, especially their fans. I mean, they're what? Number 2 in the division. They're nipping at the heels of the Steelers to get that AFC North title. So, I mean, moving on now to the Steelers, with them actually losing this game to the Cincinnati Bengals, 27-17. It is going to be a lot harder, especially with the Colts and the Browns coming up, for them to really hold on to that AFC North division title. And, I mean, what is going on here? This is 3 games you guys have dropped in a row. I mean, honestly, you guys are on a 3-game winning streak. This once potent offense has 3 back-to-back, or has 2 back-to-back 3-and-outs, and then you fumble the ball and allow Mr. Not-So-Automatic Fat fucking Randy. Oh no, this is somebody completely different. Austin Seibert was kicking field goals for the Bengals? What? And then you allow Finley to come out there and run all over you guys? I mean, they're missing Joe Burrow and Joe Mixon out there. This was the Giovanni Benard game right here. He was the one that was out here making all these moves out here. I mean, what is going on here? This is crazy for me to sit here and see, and then you have no names like this guy Alexander picking off Big Ben. I mean, what is going on here? You didn't really throw 50 times like you have been the past couple games. You did have a bit of a running game with, what's his name, Snell actually running for 80 plus yards and actually getting a touchdown. But I think it's a little too late. I mean, at halftime, before you knew it, the Bengals were up 17-0. 17-0. The Bengals. And they're missing their key pieces. I mean, that defense is not somebody to sneeze at. I mean, they got Von Bell. They got Sam Hubbard. They got Bates, who I actually really like. But I mean, finally, going into the second half, they were actually able to put points up on the board. Ben was able to get on track with Johnson, and he ended up hitting him for a touchdown. Then some of that, as I said, with Snell and Ben actually leading the way to get to a field goal to get up 10-17. But then, what do you know? Ryan Finley and Giovanni Benard march back down the field, and Ryan Finley runs 23 yards right up the left side where there's absolutely nobody in sight, for him to get a 23-yard rushing touchdown to go up 24-10. And then Snell ends up getting a touchdown, and then Cincy's kicks a field goal. And what do you know? That's game. 27-17. Come on now. Come on now. I mean, we gotta face facts here. The Bengals love to spoil rivals' seasons with them beating the Browns last year, and a few years ago, them having that wide open pass from Andy Dalton to AJ Green to end the Ravens' chances of getting into the playoffs. They love to do it. They love to play spoilers to whoever they can in the division. This is just, something that we also need to look at. The lack of really moving the ball on the ground really hurt the Steelers in this game, because Cincinnati had time of possession over the Steelers. They held the ball for 32 minutes and 3 seconds, while the Steelers had the ball for 27 minutes and 57 seconds. The Bengals run game tore up that defense. I mean, when the offense got to moving, the defense fell apart. When the defense was playing tough, the offense wasn't doing nothing. And then Juju Smith-Schuster out there dancing on the logo, you know, it really lit a fire inside of these players. And that's why Von Bell was out there and he caused a fumble. I mean, on back-to-back turnovers, that's what led to back-to-back touchdowns. So it's something that we need to address here also with being, you know, with you Steelers fans. I know you guys love him, but I think that it's time to move off of Big Ben. I think that it is. It's time. It's time. You guys have absolutely nobody behind him. Duck is a nothing. Mason Rudolph is out here throwing 3 interceptions and then getting hit with his own helmet. So, I mean, should you guys choose to trade for somebody like Dwayne Haskins or somebody who's Big Ben-like and have him sit behind Ben for a year and then tell Ben, like, hey, we're not re-upping your contract? Or should you basically just trade for somebody like Carson Wentz? But, you know, that's for you guys to decide. That's for Mike Tomlin to decide. But as we're talking about Wentz, how about we move on to his team here? The Eagles and Arizona Cardinals played, and the Cardinals won 33-26. I mean, this was a crazy start to the game. I mean, before you knew it, Arizona was up 16-0. Hopkins ended up fumbling the ball. Hurts ended up getting the ball, going into the end zone, intentionally grounding it. They called it a safety. Then Murray gets an 8-yard rushing touchdown, led by a unnecessary roughness call and a 42-yard pass to Max Williams. That's what helped set up that 8-yard run. Then they blocked a punt, and Kyler ended up finding Chase Edmonds for a 6-yard touchdown. And then finally, you know, the Eagles get the ball back, and on 3rd and 20, Hurts finds Quez, I think this is how you say his name, Quez Watkins for a 32-yard touchdown. And then Murray with a sack fumble. Eagles get the ball back. Hurts rolls out to the left side and ends up hitting Greg Ward for a 4-yard touchdown. And right before the 2-minute warning, Kyler Murray ends up finding Fitzgerald for his first touchdown of the season. How about that? The first ballot Hall of Famer. That's good to see. And then Eagles end up marching back down the field, and Hurts ends up finding Ward for a touchdown. And that was and then Sanders runs in the 2-point conversion. So, I mean, this was a crazy game. At half, it was 20-26. Arizona was up. So, then Hurts ends up giving it his all on this touchdown drive. I mean, he got sacked, lost 14 yards, got a false start. Before you knew it, it was 3rd and 29, and then he ends up hitting Rager for a 23-yard completion, scrambles a couple times, and ends up scrambling in for this touchdown. I mean, this poor dude was out there, absolutely had nothing going in his favor, and he was making something out of nothing as left and right. And I mean, that offensive line ended up allowing him to, you know, play from behind most of this game, because those issues that were going on for Carson Wentz are the same issues that Jalen Hurts has. And I mean, I know I've been a little down on Jalen Hurts, but with his feet and his mobility, I think that is a big reason why I think that Carson Wentz should be sat for the rest of the season. See what you get. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? He ends up putting out some tape, and then they end up adjusting to him and allowing him to have to adjust his game. I mean, they got that offense is actually moving now. They got something going for them, and I mean, before you know it, let's go down here. Jalen Hurts' offense had two straight sacks to turn the ball over on downs. Arizona goes back, tries to run the clock out, but they weren't able to end up picking up that first down. And then Jalen Hurts does everything, including somebody coming along the blind side, forcing a fumble, him having to pick it up and throw a completion to Dallas Goedert. And then him having to constantly keep throwing the ball downfield, trying to do a Hail Murray-like thing. And, I mean, it is what it is. I do think that they should keep him, and you could I think that they should move forward with Jalen Hurts. I think that they should trade or cut Carson Wentz because it's not working for him there. He also doesn't want to be there unless he's going to be the starter. But even if Philly doesn't end up making the playoffs, I think that it might be better for them not to, because they'll get a higher draft pick and they can replace whoever their right tackle is, because he is absolutely trash. He allowed Jalen Hurts to get sacked multiple times. He wasn't able to pick up any of these blitzes. He just stood there looking stupid as Jalen Hurts ends up getting smacked around a couple good times, taking a couple big sacks that ended up getting them out of scoring position. But, you know, it is what it is. I think that Jalen Hurts has a potential to be a great quarterback, even if he's not for long term. I think that he's actually doing something for that team, and that's something that, you know, the Eagles have been lacking all this year. I still believe in Carson Wentz and his talent, but his time has ran up in Philly, because anytime that he faces some type of adversity, he's not able to overcome. So, sorry, I think you're a little bit too immature to be a starting quarterback. But we'll move on to some actual mature quarterbacks here. With the Kansas City Chiefs and the Saints, they ended up playing, and this was an entertaining game. This was a really good game right here. The Chiefs won 32-29. Drew Brees, as you could tell, he ended up coming back, but he went 0 for 6 to start the game, even throwing an interception. I don't know if it was just him not playing for a while, him just not being game ready or whatever, but he said he was able to start throwing the ball again, and he felt good and comfortable throwing the balls. He says that he knows he wasn't 100%, but, you know, it is what it is. They lost by 3 points to probably the best team in the NFL. And the Chiefs tried to give this game away. They tried. But a few things went in their favor. And, you know, it was a really rough start for him, or for Drew Brees, because, as I said, he went 0 for 6. And when he threw a couple really ugly passes, he tried to force a few things. And, you know, the Chiefs ended up taking advantage of it, and that's why they went up 14-0. And they had a couple crazy pre-snaps formations with, you know, Hill doing some back and forth, and then they should have just followed Hill, because that is that is Patrick Mahomes' favorite target. and they ended up hitting him for the touchdown. And then they ended up getting the ball back, doing a quick little shuffle pass to Travis Kelce for a touchdown to go up 14-0. And then finally, the Saints were able to put some points on the board with Drew Brees hitting Emmanuel Sanders for a deep pass that ended up setting up Taysom Hill to run in a touchdown to actually put some points on the board to go to be for the score to be 14-7. And then the Saints punted the ball right at half, and Robinson tried to pick the punt up off of the bounce. He ended up fumbling it, and Alonzo, or I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he ended up trying to cover the ball in the end zone, ended up knocking it out the back for a safety, and it went into half 14-9. And then finally the Saints come back out, and they end up going up after Drew Brees just threw this nice little floater pass over to Murray for him to run in the touchdown to go. And then they tried to do a 2-point conversion, and there was nobody open. And Drew Brees even rolled out to the right and just more or less threw the ball out of the back, or out of the side of the end zone. So it was 15-14. And then Patrick Mahomes ends up they end up getting the ball. They go down the field. He ends up finding Hardman in the back of the end zone, or in the back of the right end zone, and ends up just hitting him. It looked like there was nobody that he was throwing it to. It just kind of looked like he was trying to force a pass out of the back of the end zone, and that's when he ends up finding Hartman. And then, for some stupid reason, the refs ejected Cam Jordan when he's just kind of battling it out with the tackle. And you can tell this is an important game to both of these two competitors, because they were both kind of just pushing on each other. And I guess Cam Jordan threw a couple punches. In my opinion, I wouldn't have ejected him, because this is a high-stakes game. The Saints are trying to hold on to the number 1 seed. The Chiefs are trying to extend their winning streak. And they haven't dropped a game since they lost to the Raiders. And it was a really good game, because even without Michael Thomas, the Saints were still hanging in there. And they've been going with Taysom Hill to be their starting quarterback for the past couple weeks, since Drew Brees ended up getting multiple rib fractures and even a punctured lung. So even with him not being 100%, they were still hanging in there. So I don't see why you would eject their best defensive player, or one of their best defensive players. But after they did that, then they end up doing a pitch option where Patrick Mahomes just kind of kept the ball. He was running, and then he kind of seen a few people up there, and then he just kind of pitches it over to Le'Veon Bell, who ends up running it in for a touchdown. And they ran to the side that Cam Jordan ended up he was on, and that's when they did it the very next play. It was just kind of crazy, and I don't see why they would do that. But I mean, even with their running back Edwards-Helaire going out, he has some kind of hip or some kind of injury on one of his legs, whether it's his hip, his ankle, or whatever. They're saying that it's a little bit of both. They're saying it's not as bad as it seems, but that is to be determined, really. And then Drew Brees ends up going back down the field. He ends up hitting Lil Jordan Humphrey for a touchdown. And Kansas City, even with that touchdown being thrown, they still end up winning 32-29. But a lot of NFL insiders and analysts and all this other stuff are criticizing Drew Brees for going out there and playing with him not being 100%. And I kind of get why he did it. In my opinion, just how I feel, listening to people talk about it over the past couple of days, I think with Michael Thomas being out, that's why they kind of forced back Drew Brees. They were talking about him starting on Friday when he ends up, or when they play for the Christmas game. But I'm not sure if it was just a, kind of like a guess that he would be back either then or this game. But in my opinion, I think with Michael Thomas being out there, like, you know what, we need you to do these certain plays, do your Taysom Hill thing, for Drew Brees to end up hitting you when you line up as a tight end or wide receiver or running back or whatever it is that Taysom Hill does, because he does a little bit of everything. He's even a coach on the sidelines for all we know. I mean, he's a jack of all trades. But I think with them being out, they kind of forced him out there because they need him to be game ready for the playoffs. I know that they dropped the number 1 seed, and now the Packers are the number 1 seed. But for them to have the issues that they had and everything, for them to lose just by 3 points, in my opinion, I think that they still did good. I mean, you're going up against the defending Super Bowl champs, who are the number 1 seed in the NFL, or in the AFC. So, I mean, let's just talk about them for a second. I mean, look at that. Even with Patrick Mahomes having a rough game, they still did everything that they could. I mean, they all talk. Patrick Mahomes talks Andy Reid language. They all talk Eric the Enemy language. I mean, they're all on the same page. And even with everything that they've done and all the adversities that they've faced this year, even when teams go up 21-0 on them, next thing you know, by the end of the game, they're putting up 40 and you have like 30. You might put up some points, but you're not putting them away. That's why they're one of the toughest teams to face, and they are a problem. They're a problem. I mean, they all do all these pre-snap, running around, going back and forth, and then if you just don't keep your eye on that guy who's going back and forth, quick shuffle pass, quick this, quick that, quick this, quick that. I mean, it's just nuts. It's just nuts. I thought that the Ravens were going to be better against them, and they went into Baltimore and smacked them up. And the Ravens weren't the same after it for a while. So, I mean, it is what it is. But this was a crazy week of football. And I'm going to talk about my badass or bust, and I'm going to talk about my pick fives for the week. So, stay tuned. We love you. Like, subscribe, share our stuff on Facebook. Like, subscribe, comment on Facebook and YouTube and all that other good stuff. I mean, just tell me I suck. Tell me you miss Dan. Tell me I'm not the same without Dan, because I don't think I'm the same without Dan being here. But, show me some love. And I'll be back here in about 5-10 minutes.